welcome to the Women's Soccer Show. I'm Allie.
And I'm Sarah.
And we have a show for you. I'm going to warn people now, it's going to be very NWSL heavy because so much happened this weekend that we have got to talk about it because we are getting so close to playoff, like everything being clinched and cinched and all of that stuff. So we are going to talk about a lot of NWSL. We've then got some just European bits, bats and bobs because so much has happened over here in Europe with Champions League and international retirements and the WSL, so all of that fun stuff. But first things first, you may have noticed that me and Sarah are being matchy-matchy in the fact that I'm wearing a Stanford hoodie and Sarah is wearing her Stanford baseball cap for good
Very
reason.
American of me now that you say it like that.
It is very American of you, but let's talk about why, Sarah. Why are we repping Stanford right now?
For many reasons, but mainly, look, we're a women's soccer podcast, but that doesn't mean we just have to talk about the professional game. There was a huge matchup in the college game here in the United States this past weekend. I'm not just highlighting this because I was lucky enough to be on the broadcast, like I was doing play-by-play for it, which I was, but it was an epic game. It was the number 3 in the nation, Stanford, hosting the number 1 in the nation, Virginia. Stanford won 2-1. And if you haven't seen this clip floating around social media, I'd be shocked because it's kind of everywhere. If you haven't, go search for it. Jasmine Ike, one of the forwards for Stanford, had a absolutely stunning bicycle kick goal that is just one for the ages. And in front of the pod, Brie Vasali is the assistant coach at Stanford. We love her. We've had her on. She has promised to come back on. So we were just like, we're proud of the girls. They got the W. They're now ranked 2nd in the nation. And hey, college women's soccer is so much fun to watch. If you have an ESPN Plus subscription, it's literally all on there. Go watch it. It's an absolute blast. But that was it. We were just, it was a great game. Enjoyed watching it. We were proud of the victors, so we thought we'd rep it. And I just want to tell everybody that when video first started, Allie was very much like, we will not be dressing up. And it was Allie who texted me wanting to coordinate outfits today. And nothing has made me happier.
To the NWSL of it all. As I mentioned in the build-up, there is so much happening regarding the playoffs and teams clinching those places. However, there has been some news type items happening with the NWSL. Specifically, a lot of retirements.
Yeah. These retirements for the past few years have really just been hitting hard, Allie. And we've got more to talk about in the latter half of this episode when we talk about international and European news and everything like that. But I think these two, if you've been watching the NWSL for a while, these two really hit hard. Lou Barnes announced that she will be retiring at the end of this season. And if you watch the NWSL, you know who Lou Barnes is. Just like a staple of the game. Been around for 14 seasons, and she's retiring. And it's like her, Jess Fishlock, and Megan Rapinoe were just like the 3 Seattle Reign, tried and true. That was Seattle Reign. And so the fact that now 2 of them are going to be retired, and it's just Jess Fishlock holding it down. She had a really cute interview after the game. They were asking her in the post-game interview about Lou Barnes and their retirement. And it flashed to Lou Barnes, who was just like smiling and running sprints. And Jess Fishlock was just like, couldn't speak higher of her. And my favorite part was she was like, I think the whole world has undervalued Lou Barnes. But for me, she's always the first person on my team sheet. And I don't think there's a greater compliment you could get from a greater player than that. And she certainly will be missed a lot in the league.
No, absolutely. And the other big one that's come out is New Zealand's captain, Allie Riley's also announced her retirement at the end of this season. Now, she is such a stalwart of the international scene for sure. You know, I always associate her with Kelly O'Hara, so now they're both gone. It's
That's funny that you do that. I wonder why. The image that pops into my head about Allie Riley is the 2023 World Cup, and I think it was the World Cup, where they banned the rainbow armbands for captains, and she painted her fingernails rainbow, and that's what stands out. That's the first thing I think about when I think about Allie Riley. like hometown kid got to go play in LA in front of her hometown fans. Just like the most wonderful end of a career for her. She's for sure gonna be missed, but she's already popping up on podcasts. So I'm like, we're gonna get more of her. I'm not worried about that.
And non-retirement news, we have now got another twist and turn to this playoffs, because we knew Washington Spirit had made the playoffs. That was already known. That's been known for weeks. However, it's now official. They will get home tie advantage. They will play their first playoff game at home because they drew with North Carolina this weekend.
That's right. I mean, it's huge. You think about the two teams that have clinched home field advantage now, Kansas City and Washington Spirit, and it's credit to Washington. That place did not used to be that hard to go into, but they've made it hard, and it's now two of the hardest spots to go into as an away team. It's big. It's well-deserved. This squad is amazing. They're peaking at the right time. And it really, in this moment, to me, feels like it's Kansas City's and Washington's for the taking, but I'm getting ahead of myself right now. Good for them. They needed either a draw or a win. It was possible if they lost and then other results fell their way, they could clinch it, but that got really complicated. They drew, they clinched it. That's huge for them.
Do you want to explain to the people very quickly how you get home advantage? Is it certain positioning in the table, or what is it that allows you to get the draw?
Okay, so the top 8 teams in the league of 14 total teams make the playoffs. And then of those 8 teams, the top 4 get home field advantage for that first game. So the top 4 will host, and the bottom 4 will have to go to that higher ranked team. And it's your classic bracket of number 1 gets number 8, number 2 gets number 7, number 3 gets number 6, and then 4 and 5 get to play. And then from there on out, whoever you end up playing, whoever has the higher seed gets to host. So let's just say for some reason Kansas City lost. They would have been losing to the 8 seed. The 8 seed's still going to go on the road to whatever team they're going to play next, because they'll play whatever the highest seed is, if that makes sense.
That does make sense. But well done for explaining it. Good job.
Oh, good. Sometimes I never know if I'm using too many words or anything, but wonderful. Yeah, I mean, home field advantage is huge, especially as you get into the playoffs. Any little bit matters, right?
No, absolutely. Speaking of the playoffs, so this weekend that is about to happen is the second to last weekend before decision day. So it's all coming down to like the crunch. You know, we're getting there for these playoffs.
I'm so excited for decision day. I'm already looking past this weekend because I'm so excited for decision day, but all of the chaos that's going to ensue this coming weekend is just going to make decision day even better. We're going to have a lot to talk about in the next, month and a half about the NWSL. It's really getting down to it, like you said.
So let's talk about it, because we have to talk about our game of the week, because that has huge implications on the playoffs and what's going on. So would you like to tell the viewers and listeners what our game of the week is?
Oh, that was the first time we got to drop the viewers and the listeners. I like that. Our game of the week had to be Kansas City against Gotham FC. And if you're listening, you're like, I watched that game. It was kind of a snooze fest. Kind of. But there are some interesting things to speak to in here. Obviously, Kansas City, already sitting in the number 1 spot, had already clinched a home field advantage. Gotham were sitting in that number 3 spot. They could have clinched a playoff spot, which, by the way, they have not clinched. We're not talking about home field advantage for Gotham. Playoff spot as a whole. They could have done so with a win, but instead, they lose 2-0 at Kansas City. They are now 4th in the table, just 2 points above the 8th spot Racing Louisville. And guess what? This coming weekend is going to be even bigger because Gotham take on Racing Louisville. So Gotham FC at this point in my mind, and everybody below them in the table, it's playoffs. Win, move on, lose, go home. Yes, they still control their own destiny, even though they lost this, but this coming weekend could change that.
I was going to say, like, is all hope lost for Gotham, or are they dependent on other people's results, or is it still they can do everything themselves?
They're still in control of their own destiny. Now, how the result turns out this coming weekend against Racing Louisville could change that. But at this point, they're sitting in 4th place. They're just 1 point behind Orlando Pride. and sitting in 4th place with 2 games left in the regular season with 4 whole spots below them. That's a pretty good spot to be sitting in. It's probably a bummer for them that they didn't clinch, but a clinch in this moment against Kansas City, but it was always going to be a hard game. The one that they have to circle right now is the Racing Louisville game, because if they don't get what they need out of this, they will go into decision day most likely needing help from other teams.
Oh, that's always the painful one when you're waiting on other people's results. Should we get into the game proper? Let's do it. Let's talk about it, because the people want to know, was this just Kansas City being Kansas City? Because they have been on such a streak right now, because the last time Kansas City lost was July 6th. They are 16 unbeaten, and they have kept clean sheets in the last 10 out of 11 matches. So was this just a walk in the park for Kansas City and Gotham just rolled over?
Yeah, I think it's a good question of, like, is this how good Kansas City is, or are Gotham not as good as maybe we think they are, or did they underperform? And quite honestly, I think Kansas City are just this good, which is wild to say, but I think that that's where we're at right now. Now, there's some little elements that we'll talk about as to why I think Gotham could have played a better game. But at the end of the day, if you want to just bake it into one sentence, Kansas City is that good. Gotham got pulled a little bit out of their game, especially in the first half. But then after they went down 2-0, they really started to put it a lot together. The only missing piece was that final pass to get in the 18 and get that dangerous opportunity that Gotham are so good at, because you have Roosevelt, you have Esther Gonzalez. Both of them like to play a little in short spaces. They like to find Esther in the 18 to tuck it away. And at that point, you have to just look at what's happening and say, it's not that Gotham can't do this. They've done this all year. It's that Kansas City's defense is that good that they are preventing it. And that ended up being, in my opinion, the big difference. I mean, the halftime stats were wild, Allie. I think that they actually kind of told the story of the entire game. Gotham couldn't get solid chances on goal, and we're going to credit Kansas City with that defense. And Kansas City didn't have many chances either, but when they did, they converted them.
So there were a few people, well, one big piece missing for Gotham. We don't want to blame it on that, but they are a different entity when they don't have that figurehead of AKB and Katrinberger. They just are.
I totally agree. I mean, any team, if you're missing your starting goalkeeper, it changes things. And I think it changes the way opposing teams play also. I think as soon as Kansas City realized Ann Katrinberger wasn't in the game, it completely shifted their game plan. And I think it had to change Gotham's as well. I think they had to sit back more. I think they had to make sure that their back line was locked down more than they would have wanted to, because they didn't have that starting goalkeeper, that wall of AKB behind them. And so mentally and tactically, yeah, I think it changed them. And I do think that with AKB, maybe these two teams meet in the playoffs, maybe it's a different story. Who knows? Because you look at the goals that Kansas City scored, and the first one was gorgeous. The second one, it was just a player messing up. And we're not going to rag on Jess Carter for it, who's had an incredible season at Gotham, and mistakes happen in the back line.
I was going to say, Carter has been impeccable for Gotham this season, so screw-ups happen. Ask any defender, it happens. So we can't blame her too much on that one. And also, Kansas City are great attacking and defensively, so it happens.
These were the halftime stats here. Expected goals at halftime. By the way, it was 1-0 Kansas City at halftime. Expected goals, Kansas City was 0.2, and Gotham were 0.01. Kansas City had 2 shots on target and 1 goal, and Gotham had 0 shots on target. That's it. Your expected goals are 0.2, and yet you have a goal. And that's been the story of Kansas City. They are more efficient, more effective when they get those opportunities. That was the sole difference maker. But that's also the difference in terms of, can you win in the playoffs? So it does bode well for Kansas City. On to a segment that Allie has labeled Bits and Bobs and Bats. Bits and bobs and bats. Allie, what are we going to talk about in bits and bobs and bats?
So much has happened in European football that's not even the Champions League. We're going to talk about some retirements. We're going to unfortunately talk about the Payot incident that potentially is the dreaded three letters. We're going to talk about Sam Kerr coming back internationally and the Lionesses' homecoming that's happening in the next couple of weeks as well. So,
did you say that we're going to talk international and you're the one that is bringing it to us, Allie?
I didn't say it was a positive thing.
Okay, now calm down.
I'm being sarcastic. The big thing we got to talk about is Millie Bright has announced that she is retiring internationally. 88 caps, vice captain for England, led England to their World Cup final because Leah Williamson's injury. Never shall we forget that she was the joint Arnold Clark Cup Golden Boot winner with Pateas. So she's had a very successful international career, shall we say.
Didn't Alexia Putellas give Millie Bright the trophy? She was like, you can have this
yes,
one. I have tons
of
these and you have none of these.
Basically, she was like, Putellas was like, do you know what? We're not going to timeshare this. We're not going to joint custody this. This is all yours, Millie. All yours.
Oh, it was so perfect, too. That was like the peak of Millie Bright scoring bangers also. Like, remember, this is such a deep cut, and I don't even remember who Chelsea were playing. And if you know the goal I'm talking about, and if you don't, then I'm just so sorry. This will be quick. There was, I think, probably 5 years ago, Millie Bright scored an absolute worldie from like basically midfield, from like the circle. Do you remember this?
No.
Okay, never mind. Moving along. 2 out of 2 now of Daily Brightness.
Yeah, they're done internationally. They are done, and I get it. Like Millie Bright plays pretty much every minute for Chelsea. She was playing every minute for England. She took herself out of the Euros for this reason because she needed to get surgery and just like rest up. So it makes sense.
Especially when you look at how many injuries she'd been dealing with. Like for a very long time, basically since the Euros back in 2022, she's been in and out with knee stuff, consistently in and out. And, if you haven't listened, Daily Brightness is a podcast with Millie Bright and Rachel Daly, and Millie Bright kind of announced it and announced her retirement on that podcast. And she kind of referenced it was nice to have the summer to get my health back and get my knee right and do physical therapy. And so you can imagine just a weight that's been taken off of her. So I really do understand. But I'm sad to see her go.
Yes, no, it is sad. And another legend of the game, Spitzer of the Netherlands, over and out. Done.
This one hurt. We were texting about this. This one hurt because she was the type of player that it felt like she was never going to retire. I was like, that's fine. She'll play till she's 50. That's great. I have to ask, though, because there was some weird chatter floating around this where people thought that she was being forced out because the Netherlands has a new head coach. Do you know much about this, and how do you feel about it?
Yeah, so there was a comment made by Tim Stillman, who, if anybody follows women's media, is a big Arsenal guy and is very knowledgeable on these things. And he commented under her video saying that players don't voluntarily retire in October. They voluntarily retire in August. And that was interesting to me because I can see it, because the Netherlands have a new coach. There's definitely, I think we felt it a bit in the Euros in the fact that they were trying to bring some of the old guard out and put in the newer guard. I think it was the Netherlands that it was, in fact, Spitzer had more caps than the entire Welsh side when the Netherlands played Wales, if that gives you an idea of how long she's been in the game.
Yeah, a long time.
So it wouldn't surprise me if that was the case.
It's an interesting thing to think about because you don't really consider the month in which players retire. Either way, we can't really speculate what it is, but what a career. And she will certainly be missed on the international stage. But I'm happy you referenced, we talked about it a lot, even this past summer with the Euros. Like, The Netherlands were really at that point where they were going to have to start to turn the new leaf, and we knew that the old guard were going to start moving out and retiring. And this is, I think, the first, unfortunately, of many to come in the next few years.
We should also point out, I just mentioned that she had more caps than the entire Welsh side. She has more caps than any European player at all. So a full-on force and legend of the game.
Absolutely. Over 240. Right, producer Mike? You guys can't hear, but Mike just said yes. Over 240 international caps. I think the number is 247 specifically. Just wild. All right, second to last topic here is Iwa Payor. If you watched her this weekend, you saw her go down. It was pretty terrifying. Everybody's kind of concerned about the knee. Barcelona have announced that it is not the dreaded ACL. However, she will be out for about 6 weeks, but happy to hear that everything is okay.
Yeah, she
and
did
finally,
a lot of pain.
Yeah. And finally, Sam Kerr is returning to the Tillies. It's happening, Allie. It's been 2 years since she's played a match with her international squad. The Matildas are playing Wales and England on October 25th and 28th, respectively, and I am so very excited.
You love the Tillies.
I love the Tillies. The Tillies love me back. We all became friends in the land down under 2 years ago. And that is all. Let's go around the world. Around the world, around the world.
España and Real Madrid have managed to climb up to second after their win against Athletic Club. Barcelona beat Atletico Madrid, pushing the capital side down to third.
And over to Italy, Roma, Napoli, and Lazio all top the league after an unbeaten start. Last year's champions Juventus are ninth after their loss this week.
To Scotland, and Hibs came back from 2 goals down to beat Rangers 3-2. Glasgow City beat Partick Thistle 2-0, and it was big wins for both Hearts and Celtic, who both scored 7 goals in their matches this week.
And finally to Germany, a grudge match this weekend between Wolfsburg and Bayern ended in 4 goals and a red card. It was Munich who took the 3-1 win, and Freiburg came from behind twice to beat Eintracht Frankfurt, and Leverkusen beat Hoffenheim 2-0. And to the WSL, it was match day 6 over in England. And as Allie described it to me over text message, I just keep putting you on blast. As Allie described it to me over text message, it was exactly what you would expect. That's what happened. So let's rip through these scores really quickly. Aston Villa and Leicester City drew 0-0. Chelsea beat Tottenham 1-0. Yes, the results expected, but scoreline, maybe not as expected. We'll see. London City took down West Ham. I don't think that was necessarily... Okay, it was expected, yeah. Okay. United took down Everton 4-1. Arsenal took down Brighton just 1-0. And Manchester City beat Liverpool 2-1. Those were the scorelines from this past weekend. There's a few things that I want to discuss. Allie, do you care what order we do these in? You're looking at them right now.
I do not. Let's just do all of them. Let's do it.
Okay. I feel like because we just talked about the scores, let's just jump into this right now, because I've been putting it off because Allie's like, don't talk to me till January, but we're going to talk to you. Then we'll start with Liverpool because, look, that was week 6. So now that we're past week 6, we have to look at the table and say there are 2 teams that have 0 points, and that is Liverpool and West Ham. And so the most open-ended, basic question, Allie, what is going on with both of these sides?
It's one of those things. I think for Liverpool, for me, it's they haven't invested properly. They haven't. They picked up the cheapest manager going and have not spent the money they got from Liv Smith. And that's where they're at. And it's as simple as that. West Ham, God knows, is the honest answer, because on paper, we shouldn't be where we are.
West Ham are the bigger question mark for me. Like you just said, look at how West Ham finished last season. And it did genuinely feel like you were just going to continue climbing. You didn't lose the type of players that you usually lose in the offseason. So you retained a lot, and it felt like you were just going to add to it. So what is going on?
I was talking about this with fellow fans this weekend, and I think we've hit on it in the fact that Rhiannon Skinner didn't get the mass exodus she normally has. So she is now really forward heavy. We have so many forwards and she wants to keep all of them happy. So she's playing all of them, but not necessarily in the right position. If you take our Japanese striker, Riko Ueki, she's a classic number 9. That is what she does. But we're having to put her in the midfield because you've got Viv Asai, you've got Shakira Martinez and Fionn Morgan all up front. You got Verena Hanshaw gets forward. Endo gets forward. We're very forward heavy, which means that midfield and defensively we are stretched, and that's how teams get behind us, and that's what happened. The goal this weekend was a miss kick by Shemek, our goalkeeper, and Aslani did Aslani things and pounced on it, and that was that. So yeah, it's just not working, and they keep changing the configuration. They keep changing. There's too much, I think. We talk about squad rotation. There's too much squad rotation, I think, with West Ham, and they're not finding that clicking. Because if you look at the cup runs, we beat Charlton 5-1, we beat Brighton 2-1. Like, we can win games, just not in the league, it seems.
Does it hurt more that it was London City?
No, they all hurt. They all make me depressed.
Okay, fair enough.
They all have me questioning my life choices.
Okay. Moving from a team that is at the bottom of the table to a team that is also in the bottom of the table, but just a little further up. Everton were playing their first fixture in Hill Dickinson Stadium on Sunday. Okay, so this is interesting. I feel like people were kind of questioning why this was even happening because Everton now have their own women's home ground, a historic one, and the men built this brand new stadium, and everybody's kind of like, well, now the women have this epic stadium. Why do they have to play in the men's stadium again? I don't mind it. Like, go play in both stadiums. How are you feeling, Allie?
That's my argument. I'm like, do you know what? I think it's fantastic. They got 17,000 at this game. Like, it was a huge thing. And also, people want to go see this new stadium. Like why not showcase the women's team in this brand new epic stadium? I have no beef with it. I'm like, I think good on Everton for showing that they still really support their women's team in both sides. Yeah, and that was a great game. Anybody who didn't see it, the Man U Everton game was a great game.
It really was. It was a fun game. I guess that you didn't know this, but that's a perfect segue into our final question, which is just me having some fun. Because, look, you look at the table, Chelsea are sitting at the top, City's in second, and United are in third. And just 1 point separates first and second place, and 1 point separates second and third place. And so the question needs to be asked. Based on what we've seen so far this season, because we're moving from the bottom of the table, let's talk about the top. Who do you think is most likely to take down Chelsea based on what we've seen on the field in the last 6 weeks?
So are we talking the season as a whole? Because I'm going to say a team that's already played them. So I'm going to say it in the reverse fixture. I think it's Manchester City. I think Manchester City were unlucky to play them as like the first game of the season because before you can get that momentum. Manchester City have picked up some great momentum at the moment. I also think that Man United gave them a cracking game, and for it to be a draw and to be the first team to take points off them, I think that's huge as well because we keep saying about the Jess Park, Grace Clinton swap between the two Manchester clubs. Manchester United got the better end of the deal. Sorry, Manchester City.
Well, that was a question. That was something we discussed as well. I still think everybody got a good end of the deal. It was a win-win, win-win. It was a win for both players, win for both clubs. But yes, Jess Park's been absolutely incredible for United. There's no denying that, for sure.
I think if Manchester City carry on this momentum that they currently have, they are more likely to beat Chelsea in the reverse fixture. Because remember, that's going to be at home. That's going to be at home for Manchester City.
So you'd say if there's one team, it's City?
Yes.
I think it's United. Just flat out. I think it's United. And the only difference is that their defense has been utterly outstanding so far this season. I have not seen Maya Le Tissier play at this level. Like, Maya Le Tissier has been great, but she's been pretty epic. And I think you mentioned that last week as well. Yeah. United have conceded 3 goals over the course of 6 games. The only other team to match that, nobody's doing better, but Chelsea have matched that. They've only allowed 3 goals over 6 games. Everybody else has allowed more. So And then you look at the offensive front, they can put away goals as well. So I think it's united.
Do you want to talk about the Arsenal of it all?
We spent a lot of time on Arsenal last week. I got a lot off of my chest, most of it not super positive. I don't have anything left there. And into the Champions League finally to close it all out. It's so fun to be able to talk Champions League so early on with all of these matchups. Now, if you listened last week, you remembered us talking about A, the new format, which we've gone over a couple times now, so we're not going to go over that again. And B, we were talking about the upcoming fixtures, what we thought from each team. So let's talk about it because we had games last week for Champions League. We also have games this week for Champions League. And unfortunately, they're all happening after we record, but they're still happening.
So the big one is, it was a good week for all Spanish teams. All 3 Spanish teams won very convincingly to top the new table, scoring 19 goals between them.
That is crazy. I mean, a 7-1 win for Barcelona is going to help that. But
against Bayern, though, that's the thing.
I know, against Bayern is crazy. And just when we thought Bayern were kind of like on the up and up, we were like, oh, they're looking really good in the league. And this is going to be fantastic. 7-1? I mean, and then you were mentioning the other Spanish teams. Real Madrid took down Roma 6-2. These are crazy scorelines. Atletico Madrid 6-0. Goodness gracious.
So yeah, so already we're seeing the fun matchups, and I'm very excited. There was a mixed week for the French and the English teams because Lyon and Manchester United won, slightly less convincingly. But 3 points is 3 points.
That's right.
Paris FC and Chelsea drew, not with each other.
No, but Chelsea drew with Twente. So do we have to talk about them for a moment? Because oh my goodness,
we do, because Chelsea only drew level because of a penalty. It wasn't a convincing performance. Sorry, Chelsea. I promise you, I'm not a hater of Chelsea, but it wasn't a convincing performance. And if this is a team that wants to challenge for the Champions League, that's not the one.
And hey, listen, we did overlook them because they're not. I'm talking about Twente. We take a look at how they're doing in their league. I think we overlooked them because you're coming up against Chelsea and you're a team that hasn't had a ton of success in the Champions League. It's probably going to be difficult, but you look at how they're doing. They play in the Netherlands. They're tied with Ajax right now, both on 13 points in first place in that league. And hey, this is a way to make a statement in the Champions League. And I love it. Now I have a lot of their games circled on my calendar. I will be watching.
Yeah, and Jill Roord came home. That's the exciting bit.
That's
Jill
right.
Roord came home. Yeah, and then losses for PSG and Arsenal.
Yeah. We kind of expected that from Arsenal, though. Coming off a really tough result, they didn't go anywhere. They went... Did they? No, they didn't. They say where they hosted. They hosted at Meadow Park. But we knew it was going to be tough against Lyon. And again, very unconvincing, unfortunately. Again, I don't want to talk about Arsenal, but you take it now.
I think the biggest one for me, biggest shock was the PSG. I mean, I know it was against Wolfsburg, who are, a formidable opponent, but it was a 4-0 loss.
Yeah. For
a team that's currently second in the French league. It was a bit of a stumbling block, shall we say.
I think that's what's the most surprising, Allie, is we expected some big results, some what you call rugby score lines, basically, in these games, but not as many as we usually are used to see within the Champions League at this early stage. But I mean, we saw quite a few of them, like a 7-1, even a 4-0. When you look at the two teams that were playing, like you just mentioned in Wolfsburg and PSG, that feels like a rugby score, because when you look at the matchup between these two teams, you expect more of a 0-0, a 1-1, a 2-1, something like that. But 4-0 is a wild blowout. Even more positives and more twists and turns that this new format is bringing that I'm falling more and more in love with every week, for the record. All right, let's look ahead to next week, Allie.
Yes. So there are some big matchups. I think the one I'm most excited about is Roma-Barcelona, just because I like how Roma are doing in the league at the moment. They're getting their momentum. And also Barcelona are Barcelona. And Roma play some of my favourite kind of football. So I'm excited to see how that's going to go up against Barca.
I think we're going to end up saying all of these because you look at the matchups this week and I'm like, well, actually, I think all of these are ones that I want to watch. Oh, man. I mean, Atletico Madrid, Manchester United, I think it's going to be really interesting. And it's going to be the first really huge test here for United. And considering how well Atletico Madrid just played in that previous game in the Champions League, 6-0 against St. Polten, like that's going to be a tough one. But then I have so many more. We'll go back and forth. What's the next one for you?
Chelsea Paris FC. Because Paris FC...
Really?
Yeah, for me it is because...
I won't be watching that game.
Fair. But we have to remember the last couple of seasons, Paris FC have played the upset. They've played the team that will upset the they knocked out Arsenal, remember, a couple of seasons ago, and then like last season they did well in the group stages. And so yeah, I mean, I'm excited to see Chelsea Paris FC.
Okay, I'm going to say two, but it's because I'm interested in them for the same reason. It's PSG, Real Madrid, and then Bayern Munich and Juventus. And I'm interested in these for the same reason because I think it's going to start to level set really where these teams are at. Because you just mentioned PSG is coming off of a 4-0 loss to Wolfsburg, whereas Real Madrid just beat Roma 6-2. So I'm curious how this turns out. Like, is Real Madrid going to come in and stomp all over PSG? Or is this going to be even? Is PSG going to come out on top? Because that's going to really start to level set where everybody is in comparison with each other. And then Bayern and Juventus game on Thursday for the same reason. I mean, we just said Bayern lost 7-1 against Barcelona, but it was Barcelona. So how good really are Bayern right now? They're going to come up against Juventus, who just took it 2-1 against Benfica. So I think that'll start to really level set and put in perspective where everybody's starting to fall right now in this moment.
Speaking of Benfica, they take on Arsenal, which again, I'm super excited about because
I'm very scared for that game. I don't want to watch it.
Because, again, Benfica played the upset last season.
Yeah.
They are a good, solid Portuguese squad.
Why do you think I'm scared and I don't really want to watch it? I think that they could beat Arsenal.
I think they could beat Arsenal. I think they are going to play the upset. And
you're calling it now. Huh.
I'm calling it now. Calling it now. And again, I promise Arsenal fans, I'm not just being mean to you because you're Arsenal, but I
only like 1%, so that's okay.
Only 1%. But you guys haven't been convincing. So, it'll be interesting. It will be interesting. As current champions, you should be able to beat Benfica. Will you beat Benfica? I don't think so.
How much of a disappointment is the start of this season for Arsenal if they then don't beat Benfica?
Oh, their season's over.
I think everything will be turned I think it's a little sideways right now, but not totally sideways. If they lose to Benfica, I think it's going to literally get turned upside down. I think people are going to explode. Not going to lie. All right, and that is it for us here at the Women's Soccer Show this week. We did NWSL, we did WSL, we did a bit of Bips and Bods and Bats and International per Allie, and of course Champions League. Everything is underway. NWSL, second to last game of the regular season this weekend. It's going to be huge. It's going to set up decision day, and we will cover that all next Wednesday. And in the meantime, you can head to our Patreon for News in 10. We're going to talk about why Jenna Neiswanger is not getting any time with Arsenal, and of course the other 8, where Allie and Mike talk about everybody that's not in the top 4 in the WSL, which might start to include Arsenal.
I was going to say, you're currently 5th. So
head on over there if you want to hear Allie and Mike talk about Arsenal. And that's it for us here this week. I've been Sarah.
And I've been Allie.
Thanks, everybody.
Good night.